Welcome to the HIV Podcast. Each week we focus on a person, historical event or pop culture moment linked to HIV and explore the story of what actually happened. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jess, and between us we've been working in the field of HIV for 40 years. Our aim is to get as many people as possible HIV educated.
What am I saying? Sorry. It started already. Welcome to the HIV Podcast.
Thank you for joining me. Obviously, your voice is not Sarah's.
Correct?
Correct, yeah. So today, just to keep everyone in the loop, Sarah's on her holiday. So today, for the podcast, I am joined by Chantal and Zoe. I have two co-hosts.
How lucky are you?
Welcome, Zoe. We're pleased to have you back. I'm pleased to have both of you here. Before we get into it, because we're going to talk about the International AIDS Conference again, but before we get into it, I actually wanted to talk about you two.
What exactly are we discussing about us two?
Do you know what? I just wanted to talk just a teeny weeny bit about just some of the amazing work that you both do at TVPS. Chantal, for you, I thought, you could give us a little bit of an overview about your networking extraordinaire. That's what you are, aren't you? Out and about the community.
Little bit, yeah.
Supporting clients. And Zoe, with you, I just thought maybe you could just tell us a tiny bit about all of the work you do with BU, because, you have been involved in the design and implementation of our LGBTQIA plus training. And that's been super successful and pretty massive. So, Chantal, just give us a tiny little overview on what you've been up to and doing. And
okay, so what have I been up to? So lots and lots of client support, various issues. No 2 days are the same, as I've mentioned before in a previous podcast. There is something different every day. Mainly what I try and do is raise awareness. So I will look for events that are happening within my area. So Slough, Maidenhead, Windsor, Berkshire, places like that, where other charities are sort of highlighting what they do. I just try and go along to those. Sometimes we'll have a stand there and we'll be giving away leaflets and, spermie key rings and that kind of stuff, depending on what the event is. And it just raises awareness, helps us to connect with other charities. So other charities that are supporting people will do the same as us. They'll often signpost out to various things. If they come across somebody that perhaps is in need of some debt management, they'll signpost them out. And it's just good to let other charities know what we're doing and that we're here and available, and they can signpost people to us as well.
I think that's it. I think it's so important to have someone sort of really championing that within any organisation, making those links with partner organisations, like you're saying, to ensure there's like a seamless level of care if we're going to refer into their services. So that is what Chantal has been doing. On the side, let's just say, of a ton of client support, because the need with client support is just going up and up, isn't it? Demand is more and more.
Lots of things are happening at the moment. We've had a change of government, so that in a roundabout way will affect clients. There's some changes happening with benefits. So there's lots of different things. You've got the cost of living that's constantly going up. People are worried about how they can afford to pay their bills, afford to feed themselves. And then you've got the social aspect of it as well, people feeling isolated and lonely and not really having anybody to talk to. And that's what we're here for, that they can reach out and, have a chat, come to the drop-in, attend BU, if that's something they're interested in. So, we're doing lots and lots to help people.
You're doing amazing work, Chantal. Well done.
Thank you.
And lovely Zoe. So Zoe obviously manages our office, but as I just said, alongside that, within our BU monthly group, that has now expanded to offer both emotional as well as social support. Initially, it was just social support. Now it's emotional support as well, with counselling and things like that. But so you've been like developing training, haven't you, and offering it out to local organisations.
Yeah. So the training side of things has come quite naturally with the more BU gets popular, and the more events we go to. I've been Chantal's little tag team. Chantal's took on the TVPS, and I've been taking on the BU side of promoting our services. And it's the numbers are growing. It's really lovely to see how popular it is getting, and our little small community, they're all bonding, and people returning every month is really lovely to see as well. But the more we've got out there and the numbers are growing, we're finding organisations are now getting in touch with us for internal training, inclusivity training around the language. I've put together a language guide, an LGBTQ language guide that we're sending out to organisations.
This is amazing.
Yeah, we're just tons of work, a lot of interest, but all really good to see and really lovely to see our service gain popularity.
It's amazing. And I should say, just like with Chantel, you are doing that alongside your day job. So it's almost like everyone has just got so many strings to their bow and is doing so much. There's so much good work happening with BU, with TVPS. So yeah, just wanted to say a massive thanks really, because you two do loads, as does Sue. She's also on holiday. So Sue is our other client support worker. Sounds like Sarah and Sue are on holiday together, doesn't it? They're not. They're in two separate places as far as we know. But yeah, I just wanted to chat a little bit more about what we do sort of in our day-to-day life. And another thing I have to do. So Sarah is on holiday. And as I know, you two obviously listen to the podcast because, it's probably in your contracts that you have to, And Sarah really hates when I bang on about awards. So I'm taking this opportunity while she is not here to bang on about awards.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I love it, Chantal. That's the energy I want.
Yeah,
So,
love an award.
I'm still so excited, and I know you two are over the moon as well. I posted on our social media a video of me trying to share with you both, and there was no sound.
It's quite going to plan.
Yeah, no sound at all. But so, as you know, last week it was announced that we have been shortlisted in the British Podcast Awards. And what I hadn't realised at the time was that is our 4th national award nomination in under 12 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Well, no, to all of us, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast without, Zoe, you work on the podcast as well, without obviously your support, but without support from Chantal and Sue as well, who help keep everything else running while we're doing these bits and bobs. And you all step in like this when someone's away. Yeah. So,
Well, my initial reaction when you first told us, I might have said a bad word.
Oh, did you? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, there might be a good job that the sound didn't.
That's okay, yeah. I think I said a bad word in shock, excitement.
All of the above.
You know how it happens.
I do.
It was my natural reaction. Apology.
No, please don't. I love it. I'm over the moon about this. So the ceremony is on the 26th of September. So many weeks for me to bang on about this yet. I've always said to Sarah, this is my favourite part because actually you don't know if you've won or not won. So you can sort of enjoy the excitement of this time of the nomination. So yes, right. Today, what we are doing is I am just going to give both of you a little bit more of an overview of the rest of some bits and bobs from the International AIDS Conference. So it was happening all last week and we got to attend virtually because we couldn't make it over to Germany. It was in Munich. It ended on Friday, was the last day, was the closing ceremony. So I just thought I would give you some little bits of information that are relevant to our field and obviously people listening. So with the International AIDS Conference, by the time it closed, there had been 40 oral abstract sessions, 50 invited speaker sessions, 20 workshops, 17 pre-conferences, 30 symposia sessions, 100 satellite sessions, and 2,200 posters displayed, which is a massive amount. There were attendees from 170 countries. So what I was saying was it's good that we're covering it because obviously we're in 179 countries. So we're taking the conference to those 9 extra countries.
Amazing.
Yes, exactly. Right. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about, I'm going to try not to overload us with too much information because as you've just heard, there were so many things that happened that I could probably fill the rest of the day with us talking about this. And, we don't have time for that. Not everyone's got time for it. We've got busy work to do that we've been talking about. But one of the huge things that came out of the International AIDS Conference, there is a new drug that has been described as the closest that we've ever been to an HIV vaccine. And it could cost just $40, and that's £31 a year for every patient, which is, this says 1,000 times less than its current price. That's crazy. That's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? So it's a drug called Lenacapavir, and it's sold by the pharmaceutical giant Gilead. And it currently costs $42,250 for the first year.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
And then it'll be, what, $40? 31?
They're saying that it could cost that.
Per person.
Yes, that they could make it. So what Lenacapavir is, so it's an injection that's given every 6 months, and it can prevent HIV infection. So almost a bit like PrEP.
Yeah.
And also it suppresses HIV in people already infected. So currently it's used as an HIV treatment, but they're trialing it as like a PrEP alternative.
Okay.
How much better would that be, though, to have one injection every 6 months?
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah, because to remember to take tablets, as we know, sort of as PrEP and PEP are now, that's not easy. We all forget to take tablets when you're supposed to, don't you? It's so to have this. So there was a drug trial, and it offered 100% protection, 100% to more than 5,000 women in South Africa and Uganda. Like 100% effectivity. Like, is that a word?
Effectivity.
It is now.
Like none of us knew.
It's a new word. We've invented it, and it must go in the dictionary.
We're going with it. Aren't we? Yeah. But yes, so basically they've looked at, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. We won't get into how they're looking at how they can bring the cost down. But I mean, this would be absolutely amazing. And campaigners want Gilead to allow generic licensing, and perhaps that's where the price difference occurs. I'm not really up on my pharmaceuticals, I have to say. And Gilead have said that it is too early to price Lenacapavir for prevention because they're still awaiting more clinical trial data. But obviously, this is like huge. And so Joyce Anuma, who is the senior programs officer at Y Plus Global, which is a network of young people living with HIV, said that the twice a year, because it's only twice a year, that's perfect, would be transformative for young people like me living with HIV or at risk of HIV. And then she said, it's not an exaggeration to say that meeting the 2030 goal of ending new HIV transmissions hinges on Gilead ensuring people in the global south have fair access to Lenacapavir.
It's amazing that, we're finding new treatments every day and preventative. What's the word I'm looking for? Instead of being reactive to something.
Yes. Yeah, prevention. Prevention is better than cure.
Moment there. That was a brain fog. Yes. So being preventative instead of reactive.
Yeah.
And I also read somewhere that a lot of medicines and drugs come from the Amazon.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to put allegedly in there because we don't know the source of your information.
Allegedly, lots of drugs come from the Amazon, but I've read that a few times. So I'm going to look into that more.
Look into that, and if it's a real source, we'll share it.
Yeah.
If not, we'll all just forget that happened.
Okay.
But I like the input.
Real. I think it is real.
I've never heard that. That's fascinating if that's true.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Lots of stuff has come from the Amazon.
Wow. Well, in speaking of prevention, I have another preventative measure that's actually going to be really important for us to know about, as well as Lenacapavir. So at the AIDS 2024 conference, saw a new term come in, which is DoxyPrEP. So that's doxycycline pre-exposure prophylaxis. What a mouthful, right? Can't say it fast.
I admire the fact that you can pronounce all these names because I really struggle.
Oh, but remember, I was attending, so I actually heard them.
Okay, that's true. I would struggle with that. That is a mouthful, yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. I did have to write some things out phonetically, so that you can be like, how do I pronounce that? So DoxyPrEP has made its debut, and it's to join the better known DoxyPrEP. So it's obviously the same way in which, PEP and PrEP are used. So DoxyPEP is a tool to reduce the risk of syphilis, chlamydia and gonorrhea. DoxyPEP, obviously, you take post-exposure. DoxyPrEP, God, it's such a mouthful. You take pre-exposure, you take beforehand. But so they had quite a few trials from around the world that were giving their findings on DoxyPrEP. And a trial from Canada involving men who have sex with men living with HIV and with a history of syphilis showed reductions of 79% in syphilis, 92% in chlamydia and 68% in gonorrhea. That's pretty awesome findings. Like, I mean, there were some amazing things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That could be.
Those are good numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I actually hadn't really considered that there I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really hadn't considered that people were looking at other ways of preventing other STIs in a similar way with like PrEP. So
I hadn't. I was just thinking that myself.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, to know that actually we're hopefully going to be able to stop any new transmission of the majority of STIs.
Yeah.
What a difference that would make. Although they did say that a big question mark hangs over the potential for antimicrobial resistance, AMR, apparently it's called, love an acronym, with the prolonged use of doxycycline. So they're saying that large scale and continued surveillance is crucial. So obviously they don't want to be giving people doxycycline and then they're becoming resistant and it means nothing in the end. So yeah, I mean, amazing. 2 unbelievably awesome sort of advances. I mean, we always talk about how advanced HIV medicine is, the world of medicine and HIV is, but it's like it's just growing all the time. It's so fantastic.
This stuff never hits mainstream media. You know, you get somebody comes up with there's a new drug for a cancer, for example, and it will target a specific gene within this cancer, and it comes up on social media, it comes up in the news. You'll read it in newspapers, news alerts that come up on your laptop, those kinds of things. But very rarely do I see anything to do with sexual health. We've discovered this that can help.
I feel like more so we tend to see the bad news stories, if you will, for like sexual health, like you're saying, rates of syphilis skyrocket. You know, we see that, don't we? Rather than these, oh my God, there's this advance in medication that could change the game. Yeah. They want that shock value with STIs, anything to do with sex.
And they want us all to be miserable every time we check the news. That's what I think. That's why I don't check the news.
It's true, actually. That it is quite depressing. Yeah, some days when you put the news on.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Exactly. It's why they call it doom scrolling, don't they? When you're just going through the news and it's just like, oh God, it's just awful.
But nice to hear some positive news.
Yes, exactly. I'm bringing nothing but positive news today, actually. I didn't realise that, but that's a good point, Zoe. All the positive. So this isn't sort of really news, but it was actually more of an interesting point that came up in one of my sessions. The session was called Living Your Sexual Fantasies or Living Your Sexual Dreams? I was like, I am at that conference. Let's go.
Just say amazing. I need to hear all about it. Go on.
It had a porn star there chatting about it.
Living your sexual dreams.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. Let's go.
Yeah, so Chantel's just taken the biggest swig of her Coke, like,
ready,
locked in, let's talk about it. Okay, so initially this session was talking about, like we're saying, living your sexual fantasies or dreams, however it was named. But the points they brought up were so fascinating. So it was all around how, from such a long time, we've approached sex for people living with HIV as more of like a risk-based conversation. Yes. Rather than how satisfied are you? How good is your sex life? It's this constant, it's become, they said, really entrenched that the lens primarily focuses on a technical conversation around sexual practices, penetration, ejaculation, and the risk of it. And, you know, what are you using? And they're saying that actually it needs to be around a more holistic approach that's around fulfillment and sexual desires. And because people aren't going to be living a fulfilling life if, you know, as soon as they're diagnosed, that's how we approach their sex life in this incredibly clinical way. It needs
exactly. And it's not fair, is it? Because, you know, if you get a diagnosis, you're still human, you still have feelings, you still have desires, you still have dreams, you still have fantasies that, you know, sexual fantasies that you may want to carry out.
Yeah.
So why should your diagnosis hold you back from doing that?
And we should probably acknowledge that, you know, sort of clinically and within terms of support organisations, we sort of have a part to play because, of course, we do have to talk about risk because that's, you know, we have to make the wider public aware. We have to talk about this. We have to talk about education. But yeah, perhaps it's around the conversations we're having around newly diagnosed people and asking those questions, because I don't think people are ever saying, how satisfied are you with your sex life? I mean, of course, I don't want everyone to be scared and not come to us like, God, all they're going to talk about is my bloody sex life. What's your favourite position? It's like, no.
But I totally get what you're saying. And it's just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean that your sex life from there on is going to be rubbish, and that you shouldn't be satisfied, and that you shouldn't have a fulfilling sex life because you've got a diagnosis.
Exactly.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. I will not allow it.
Perfect. I like it. And then they had a porn star called Hans. I don't have his second name here, but he's basically, they describe him as like this. He wanted to be like the German Brad Pitt in Hollywood, but he didn't actually make it, so he became a porn star instead.
As you do.
Love that.
Yeah, I did. So he came out as HIV positive in 2014, and it says he acquired HIV in 2011, was put on ART, and so since coming out publicly as HIV positive, he has been like really outspoken and a real role model for U=U treatment as prevention. And he even created his own campaign called Hans Helps to spread the U=U message.
Google him. I can't find a picture. I don't know. When you say porn star, I immediately need to see a picture.
But yeah, and then they just did a bit of a Q&A with Hans. You know, it was just really, really fascinating. So I'm going to go and check out a little bit of Hans Helps after this.
Yes, send me the link.
Yeah,
I do
we'll have to. Yes.
Get out.
We see us both in.
Yeah.
That's our task for the rest of the day. What is Hans Helps? Let's get in touch with him. I was saying, you have to come on the podcast. We haven't had a porn star yet.
Could
There
you
you go.
imagine how good that would be?
We'll have to
That
get
would
in
be
touch.
so interesting.
Because that would be perfect inside. Because let's face it, you think of some of our clients, there are a few that would happily, openly talk about their sex life.
Yeah.
There are others that think that's very personal, it's very private, and they don't want to discuss it. But to have somebody who works in that industry that, you know, is quite vocal and is doing a lot of raising awareness for stuff, to come on the podcast and actually talk about his own sex life, I think that'd be really good, really informative.
Yeah, I do. So this is going to be the new way that I just try and get people to come on the podcast now, where I just beg them on the podcast so they feel like they can't say no. So Hans, expect my email. But yes, I think that would be fantastic as well, like you're saying, to get the thoughts and opinions, especially for someone who's so outspoken and in the public eye. So, you know, famous, using their platform to raise awareness. I always think that's incredible, and I always want to have a good chat with them. And then we draw to like the final ceremony, which turned into a party at the end. I loved it. Like they had a band on at the end and everyone was up dancing. I mean, I wasn't, because I was in my lounge. It became really obvious that one of the themes throughout the whole conference had been around choice. And we talk about choice an awful lot. And it was really, really clear that, you know, there isn't one form of prevention or treatment that works for everyone. It's, you know, we know it's not one size fits all in terms of HIV prevention. And I think it's acknowledging that and saying, yeah, that's okay. We don't have to, yes, Lenacapavir is brilliant, but that might not work for everyone. You know, we might still want to do condoms over here, or we might want to do, you know, I don't know, like U=U or PrEP, or, you know, I think acknowledging that rather than forcing everyone down one sort of avenue is a good thing,
Having
right?
that choice, it just gives you freedom, doesn't it, to make an informed decision about what you want to do.
It's one of the things that makes us human, isn't it? That like freedom of choice. We don't, some people are in situations where they don't have loads, but the one thing they do have is freedom of choice. And I think that's really, really important. And sort of the last bit we'll end on is funding was on everyone's mind, as it's always on ours as well. You know, it's a tough environment for funding. And I think the worrying thing was they had said that governments around the world are signalling their intentions to scale back contributions to HIV programs that have a lasting impact, because infection rates have gone down, but it's almost like that's too soon. Don't pull back support yet, because we're not at a place where I think it's sort of a critical moment, isn't it, where it's like, no, keep that funding going. So we'll have to keep, I suppose that is a bit of a negative, isn't it? I thought I was going to bring all positives, but it's not. That is a little bit of negative.
Only a little bit, though. Only a little bit.
It's the news. It's always going to be negative.
Yeah, it's so true, Zoe. It's so true.
It's not your fault. Don't worry.
Well, I tried to keep it upbeat, and we did have some good news, but basically that is a roundup of the International AIDS Conference.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was good. What was your favourite part, Zoe?
Well, I was just going to say, actually, and I'm a bit delayed in my comments here, but when you was on about choice, it reminded me a lot of birth control. So there's a lot of different options for that, and everyone can choose their own option, what works for their body, their lifestyle, their choice.
Exactly.
It reminded me of that.
Yeah, like you're saying, it just cannot be for anything like this one size fits all. It just can't. There has to be that freedom of choice.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
My favourite bit was the bit about the porn star. I feel like Jess has left me out. She asked Zoe what her favourite bit was. I didn't get asked.
It was. Let's talk about living our sexual desires. What, Chantal? What's your sexual desire?
I couldn't possibly say.
Thanks for listening to the HIV Podcast. If you enjoyed our podcast, please like, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You can now also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the HIV Podcast for behind-the-scenes insights and video. The HIV Podcast is produced by Thames Valley Positive Support.